Welcome to Our Voices, Asian Pacific Islander Student Perspectives. In this panel, Asian Pacific Islander students will share their thoughts about their identity, RCC's campus climate, and the rise in anti-Asian discrimination and xenophobia during the COVID-19 pandemic. Through the Our Voices panel discussions, we aim to empower marginalized communities, create greater understanding among the campus community, and address inequities. We've received great feedback from our first 4 discussions. I anticipate another interesting discussion today. Before we continue, I will remind you to please remain muted until asked to speak. If you have questions, there will be an opportunity to ask them at the end of the program. Feel free to ask questions using the chat function at any time. We are recording today's program and will post it on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion website. Now I will turn the program over to Dr. Beatrice Bridglall, Dean of the School of Education and Social Sciences, who is serving as the moderator for today's discussion. Dr. Bridglall?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Roy. So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. And when you do introduce yourself, please mention your name, major, anticipated year of graduation, and how you identify in terms of race or ethnicity. And please note that racial and ethnic identification is a matter of personal choice, and whether you identify using a broad term, such as Asian, Pacific Islander, Asian American, etc., or specify your country of origin, such as Indian or Japanese, etc., it may be helpful to the audience for you to explain why you identify as you do. So let's start with Miran.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Miran. I major in business administration in the Sam Draper Honors Program, currently doing my 2nd semester. My anticipated year of graduation would be 2022, hopefully by June. And I consider myself as South Asian American because I was born in New Jersey over here in the US, but I've lived in the region of South Asia for the past 17, 18 years.
Great, thank you. Let's see, and Jun.
Hi everyone, my name is Junya Vihar. Please call me Jun, and I'm from Japan, but I'm considered by myself Chinese Japanese because I born in Japan and raised in Japan, but my culture is in China because my mother is Chinese and I educated by Chinese mother. And I will graduate after this semester, so 2020 spring. And my major is business administration. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dylan?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Dylan, and I'm majoring in business administration, and this is my last semester at RTCC. I have been living here for about 2 years, but I came from China, and I identify myself as a Chinese because I was born and raised in China. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sue?
Hello everyone, my name is Suyan John, just call me as Sue, and then also I'm gonna graduate this semester. Also, I think I'm a Korean because I came here like 2 years ago for RCC, and then I was born in Korea and then raising in Korea. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also my major is marketing.
Great, thank you all. So, so in what ways does RCC do a good job of supporting students of Asian Pacific Islander descent? If you can share an example or two, if you can think of them. Sue, do you want to start?
I think when I just came here, I couldn't find the Korean, but I can find the like Chinese or like Japanese. So it was it was good to me because it was first time to meet the other countries, the other people from the other country. But Japan and China and Korea was like they're nearby, located like near, so it was like easy to live here, like just the culture, and then also I think 1 year ago, Dylan run the Chinese club, so it was helpful to me.
Great. So Miran, do you want to take it from there?
So because I was like in the South Asian region for like 17, 18 years and whatnot, I studied over there as well. So I was used to the sort of British way of learning things. And coming over here to like an American college was a whole different experience. And I think I'd like to thank, she's in the audience, Dr. Lynch, for helping me find my way through this whole thing, this whole process, and getting me through with all this. And she interviewed me for the honors program as well, and mentored me in the my first semester. So thank you to Dr. Lynch. In terms of services, I'd have to say the Connection Center is really useful for anyone who's having like financial issues or needs like support in terms of food and whatnot. They do a lot of good work. Me personally, I use the Reading and Writing Center for my research papers, which helped a lot. And the financial aid office definitely would be of any help for anyone who is requiring assistance with money matters.
Great. Thank you, Miran. Dylan?
Yeah, well, I think RC is already doing a good job when it's planning the panel discussion for API. But personally for me, I think like the Asian professor at RC was always, being supportive and helpful to me, especially Dr. Lee and Dr. Liao. I remember when I was asking Professor Lee to write me a recommendation letter for my transferring, and like I didn't expect anything more culturally or like individual, but she spent some efforts to explain the meaning of my Chinese first name in the letter, and I think that really made me feel supported. And I don't think any other local professors could do that, because only people from your culture could understand like the meaning of your first name. But beyond that, I always got extra care from my professors like Dr. Lynch and Dr. Beatrice when I during my time at RCC. So yeah, I think those are the good examples.
Great. Thank you. And June?
Yeah, I'm strongly agree with Jilan, because when I just came here, I feel like only I'm an Asian in here, but a lot of students like help me and they try to understand who I am, and especially Dr. Lee and Professor Caputo, and they try to understand being Chinese Japanese. I was very struggle in Japan because my nationality was Chinese Japanese. I got a lot of discrimination in Japan, but when I came here, it was totally gone. Like a lot of RCC students and professors support me to who I am. So I'm very proud to be in the RCC student, and then I'm very appreciate to all professors and students.
Great. Well, this is really wonderful to hear. So how can RCC do a better job of supporting students of Asian Pacific Islander descent? So Dylan, maybe you can start.
Well, I think RC is already doing a good job, and like personally, because I don't have like much more demand for the school. Probably the school could start some organization just for Asian students, like like organizations that can help students to connect with each other, like socialize probably. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Miran?
So I was also considering that maybe more panels like this than one that we're having right now, sort of an area where Asian students and Pacific Island students can converse with each other regarding issues affecting them or issues that affect the community as a whole, sort of like online group therapy, I guess you could say.
Mm. And Sue?
Also, I don't have a like bad experience at RCC. So I think RCC is doing good job. But yeah, I think they're doing good job. So I think just they don't have some like specific Asian club to like understand the other culture, or like they only have like Asian club or their specific their race club, but they don't have something club to understand the other cultures. So if they have some that kinds of club, it would be better.
Thank you. And June.
Yeah, also, I think if there is like any Asian community, it's more helpful because I couldn't find any Asian community or club in RCC. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So describe one or two things that you wish all faculty and staff would know about the Asian American Pacific Islander community. So let's see. So Miran, do you want to start?
So I think in my experience, there's not really been any issues, but I guess there could be some cases. I haven't personally seen this happen, but where teachers may not understand that some students coming from the Asian American Pacific Islander region have English as like a first language, so they might like end up calling them out either publicly or privately because they can't speak English, or like a bullying kind of scene. But if they, instead of like trying to put them down, if they sort of help them understand the language or gave them time and were patient with them to sort of let them understand the language and do what they could to understand it, and instead of putting them down, I guess that could really be helpful. Also, this was also mentioned, I think, in one of the other questions, that the stereotype that the Asian kids are going to be the whiz kids or the math geniuses, that's not necessarily going to be true for some of them.
Thank you. And Dylan.
Yeah, I think I agree with Miran because there are some, and I think most of my I'm going to say here is connected to the stereotype for API people. So I'm probably going to save it till next question. But since I just came here for like 2 years, I'm not very familiar with the API culture here. So yeah, probably someone can talk more about this. Yeah.
And Sue.
I think I think nothing that much pressures. I agree with like the land and then to be learned. So yes.
Okay, thank you. And June.
Most of professor is very helpful and they understand me, but when I just came here, I took many ESL class, but during the time I couldn't convey my idea or what I thinking. So I struggle communicate with the other student and professor. But at the time I really need help to understand each other. So I was looking for like Asian professor and then especially Japanese and Chinese professor. So if if professor is more comfy, like provide flexible time to understand me, or like face-to-face communication, it would be better. But except the pretty much good, I think.
Great, thank you. I'm making note of all of this so that later on we can convene and discuss, how we can start implementing some of this. But some of you brought up the myth or and some of you've talked about it, and some of you may have heard of the model minority myth or stereotype associated with Asian American Pacific Islander peoples. And this model minority myth is a persistent stereotype that paints people of Asian Pacific Islander descent as inherently successful and problem-free, particularly in contrast to other minority groups. So has this myth affected the ways others interact with you or their expectations of you? Miran, do you want to take this one?
So that's what I was referring to in the whole whiz kid situation, but it hasn't as it affected me or like changed people's expectations, at least for me.
And Dylan?
Well, actually, like it didn't affect me like at RC, but and no one talked about that to me. Like, you know, you like Asians probably are smarter, like you are good at math, but you know, sometimes I have this expectation for myself, like, you know, for the math, for the math, I need to do better, like, you know, probably than my peers at RC, and you know, and I probably, you know, think the professor were expecting something like, you know, more from me, so that made me work harder, but I think it didn't like do any damage to me, so I think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Sue?
If I meet someone and I introduce I'm a Korean, and then they say, "Wow, you should be love the K-pop or like K cultures or K food," but actually I'm not interested about K-pop. So if they ask me, "Oh, do you know like K-pop idols?" Um, sorry of that, I don't know. Then they will like, "Why you don't know like that?" So I'm just Korean. I'm not like K-pop idols. So it was just like make me sad. They just consider me because I'm Korean, not because of me. And yeah, I think that one was like I didn't get any discrimination, but like if they say, "Wow, you should love like K-pop or like K-food, which one?" or like something like that, it's a little make me sad. So I feel like I need to study about like K-pop or like they're interesting to make friends in here. Yeah, except that one was good.
Thank you. And June?
Um, I have similar experience with Sue. Um, when I just came here, I introduced by myself Japanese because I don't want to mention Chinese because it's too complicated. So I just when I mention I'm Japanese, say a lot of people ask, "Oh, you should love anime. You should love ramen. Like you should how." They explain to me how Japanese culture is good, but I grew up in Japan, but I grew up in Chinese culture, so I don't know that much. Yeah, I cannot explain very well. So at that time, they stare me like, "Hey, why you don't know? You know Japanese, right?" And I explain by myself, "Oh, because I'm Chinese Japanese. I grew up in Chinese culture, so I don't know that much." Then they stare me, "Okay, oh, you're Chinese." So I feel very comfortable. I feel like, so you like me because I'm Japanese or be who I am. So I was like, oh, I don't know what should I do. So it pretty much same occurring with the like stereotype.
Thank you. And so, as you know by now, that there's really been a rise in racism against people of Asian descent during the COVID-19 pandemic that's being reported around the world. So, do you think the rise or increase is due to statements that conflate the spread of the virus with the Asian community? Dylan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think yeah, the hate crime is definitely in connection with with this. Especially, I remember when Donald Trump was still in the White House, he claimed that the COVID was China virus. So I mean, although right now all the you know, actually there are already evidence showing that the virus is not originated from China, but I'm sure there must be still like a lot of believers of him like still thinking that way. The virus is originated from China, and but besides the virus things, like he also like Donald Trump also blamed a lot of issues like, you know, on the Chinese government, like, but for example, if I were American, like if I heard all the news about um, every bad news is connected to Chinese or Asian. Like, you know, if I were American, I won't. If I believe those news, I'm sure I also don't like it. Like, I would not like, you know, Asians or Chinese, but that's not the truth. So yeah.
Mhm. Thank
And
you.
but right now I live in Suffern, so it's pretty it's a peaceful neighborhood outside, and so I'm not like feeling very you know, I'm not experiencing any bad things. But for people living in the big cities like New York City or LA, I believe life must be like, you know, during the pandemic must be even harder for them due to the Asian hate crime. Yeah, so that sometimes make me worry, you know, if I should you know, move to the city or not.
Thank you for sharing that. Sue.
So my opinion is similar as Dylan. Also, not because of COVID. Before COVID, also there's a lot of discrimination, but especially due to COVID, there's a lot of people think this is from Asian, like China or like some other country. So that one is like make us more scared, so we don't want to go outside, and especially like Atlanta case, that one also he doesn't like the Asian, so that's why he did it that something. So yeah, and then America is the diversity country, so we need to understand each other, and we need to like respect each other. But just because they don't like, and then it's like different, that's why they are doing like discriminate. They did discrimination to us. So yes.
Thank you. June. Do you?
Personally, I feel more dangerous staying here before the COVID. Once COVID started, like a lot of people, sometimes I feel that some American or Asian people staring us and then whisper like, oh, they're Asian, so we need to be careful. And then I saw the one situation, the mother told the kids, stay away from the Asian people. At that time, I feel like, oh, pretty shocked because they judge me because I'm Asian, then the Asian has the COVID. So it pretty much shocked. And then it's also called because of the government. The government started like the COVID from Asian country, then all people believe that. It could be true, but because COVID came from Japan, there's no reason to blame Asian people. So how can I say? I feel just uncomfy than before because I came here to looking for more freedom. Like I got born in Japan, but when I came here, I noticed a lot of diversity. Then before COVID, nobody judged me because of Asian, but after COVID, I feel like people more like doing discrimination to Asian.
Thank you for sharing that. And Miran.
Yes, that's the thing. Linking like an international crisis or a whole global pandemic with a specific community in general would definitely cause considerable amount of damage to that community's reputation or to their respect even, and people would start discriminating if that news also like spread all over the TV and whatnot because everyone watches the news these days.
So this is actually a follow-up question to that, and that is, what is the impact if any, of increased anti-Asian violence, discrimination, and xenophobia on you and or your community? Miran, do you want to start us off?
Thankfully, it's not really personally affected me on any basis. There's not been much like discrimination, at least in my case, or anything like that. But my family and I, we do like converse about it at time to time, like what started the fire and what's bringing more fuel into the fire to raise the hatred. And I think that's all that we've usually also been doing during COVID, like being locked in the house. We just usually hold conversations regarding what's happening these days, and that's something we talked about.
And June.
I think definitely it will impact to Asian, but it will not be worse. I think it will be getting better because the good thing American culture, they spoke up and they stand up. So of course, before that Asian hate, it also happened Black Lives Matter. Then they stand up and spoke up. Then a lot of people change their image of the Black people or change the police or something like that. But also in this time, Asian stand up, then they spoke up. So I think the majority of the image also changed because is this a time to think about what is the Asian hate crime or what is discrimination to Asian. So it's good time to change the culture and then image. So I think it will affect to the better community.
Thank you. And Sue.
It is also true that world should be changed, as other students said, but also like my people didn't judge me because I'm Korean or like Asian, but I feel scared because just they're looking me, just I'm a human, like just people, but I think they're looking me because of I'm Asian. I'm maybe they will think like bad things. Maybe they think like that, like my imagination, even though they didn't think like that. So we need to change our like we need to be like strong, or so we also should be care. Like we try to should be care. I'm sorry. We try to think it doesn't matter, whatever. If they think it doesn't matter, just there, let it go like that. Also, we need to change our minds, I think.
Thank you. And Dylan.
Well, yes, I think the the Asian hated crime, like impact a lot of people's for their life decisions. For example, if I'm still concerned if I should move to the city or still living in suffering, and like I'm also thinking of ways of like how to ease the tension like between me and my surrounding people, like especially Americans and not Chinese, not Asians. So, but I think there are a lot of people like no matter Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, there are a lot of the Asian group is they're trying to um, advocate this campaign like the Black Lives Matter, but we are trying to use some other way like to expand our influence. So I think that the hate crime like is like a double sword. Like one sword is like one side is it it bring it caused damage to the Asian people, but on the other hand, like it somehow united like every of us, and so I think there we need to like figure a way out, like as soon as possible, probably, because I think probably after the pandemic is over, and with some people's like advocating their voice, probably things will get better, and like the country will resort its peaceful old days, probably. Yeah.
So what can we at RCC do to help to um, to help our Asian American students not feel or to feel that they have a place to come to talk about maybe this violence and this discrimination and some of the thoughts that Sue had shared. How can we help our students to feel safer in this climate?
Uh, I'll say like if it like well like there are some international students at RTC, and I think one way to help them like remain their personal safety during the pandemic, I think, is by like, probably finding safe housing options for them. Because when I arrived here at the first time, I live in the dorm of Rampo College, and that is a good option. But like there are also a lot of other students they don't know how to find safe housing. So I think probably this is one option, but I don't think it's very likely doable because nowadays there are less international students coming from other countries. I think the second option is mm, well, anyway, at RC on campus, I think it's pretty safe because I never like experienced any discrimination either from professors or from my students, from students. But yeah, yeah, but on campus, I think, yeah, they probably should like form a start this like commute like not committee probably composed by like some Asian professors or like some you know other professors like so that those students who and those committees should probably provide some like legal consulting or like provide students a way how to like defend or how to use the law like because I think one of the problem like Asian students they don't know how to like react after they get discriminated is they don't know how to use the law or other like weapons to like legal weapons to defend themselves. So I think yeah probably this committee could offer some ideas advice or like or provide some like consulting after to ease the pain after they are probably they get discriminated. Yeah, so I think that's probably two ways. Yeah.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Sue, do you have some ideas of how we at RCC can begin to think about, helping our Asian American students, especially during this time?
Um, like before pandemic, there's a lot of activities like for international students. We don't know about like Easter or but the other activities. So they hold some launch time to announce what's that holiday and then how they'll celebrate that holiday. And then also there's an international day, so we could announce what is our culture and our country. So also I didn't know that or the other countries traditional clothes or traditional foods, so they have a chance to try and then they have a chance to talk with the other cultures friends. So it was or it's good, but due to pandemic, we cannot go to the campus, so we cannot enjoy our school life, and then we cannot meet the people. So maybe we could do like this, like we can have a Zoom meeting to share our information or American holidays to understand each other. Yeah, that would be good.
Those are great suggestions. Thank you. Miran, do you have other suggestions?
So I think I mentioned before, panels like this do would kind of definitely help in like sharing information and conversing, and definitely probably connecting international students with other international students would help. And in regards to I think what Dylan said, there is actually an Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month committee which exists. I'm not sure if they do like legal and whatnot, if they teach that, but they hold certain events.
Thank you. And Jun?
For me, I think the one way to help the Asian people, because especially for international students, when we just came here, we don't know the environment or anything. Then when I just came here, I live in the one apartment which which I found from RCC website, but the house was not good, and then community was not good. I had to walk 40 minutes to bus stop and take a bus to RCC more than 30 minutes. I don't feel it was safety, but these days RCC have a connection with Ramapo College, and then I often go there and then I look up the Ramapo College, but it would be better because if the RCC provides dorm, it would be better. And then like I think RCC should put more information about housing, because when I just came here, it's just two options, which is living Stony Point or using application and find housing by yourself. But we don't know anything, and then we just log in there and then find apartment, which is around RCC, but RCC doesn't know the housing, so it's all my responsibility. Then I feel so scared, and then I really want to go back to Japan at that time. So, but after that, I had connection with the other Asian community or international student, and they told me, oh, there's a more housing which is more safety and more clean. So if the RCC organized the international organization well, it will be more helpful.
Thank you for those really very good ideas. I'm just wondering if the audience has any questions for our fabulous panelists. Let's see. Okay. 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 Has the increase, and this is coming from Dr. Roy, has the increase in anti-Asian discrimination and xenophobia impacted whether you plan to remain in the US after you graduate from RCC? Miran, do you want to start us off?
So the increase in discrimination, that's not really as such affected like any of my plans to whether to remain or not, because like after RCC, I'm doing like the transfer to like the 4-year university, and that's sort of like how the plan is so far. So I think the increase in discrimination hasn't as such affected that, but someone did mention this earlier in the chat that education is the key to sort of get the public to know what the cultures are like and how to reduce discrimination as well. It is definitely a good path to take in order to reduce discrimination and whatnot. And after the pandemic, well, I would know what the situation is because I am graduating next year, so I'll have to see what the situation is like then in 2022.
Good. Dylan?
Yeah, I think it is like affecting my decision because like yeah, if the situation is still not very friendly to Asians, probably I'm not considering like like getting a job after graduating from grad school, or I probably will not have any internship before coming back to China. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's all.
And Sue, what do you think?
Also, I'm gonna transfer after this semester, and then also I was planning to transfer to CUNY, which is located in NYC. But I got accepted, but I was afraid about to go to NYC because these days a lot of racism and then like hate Asians. So I was so scared that I need to like think about more carefully. Should I go NYC or should I go the other college to which is located in more safety? So if they don't have a racism, the NYC definitely have a benefit for me. But because of due to the like racism, I need to think more carefully. So this is affect my decision.
Thank you. And John, what do you think?
It affect my decision same as Sue. I was trying to go city because I wanna enjoy the New York City because New York City provides more opportunity for internship or diversity program. So I came here because of New York City, but these days I heard a lot of news like the woman got discriminated by the man. So after that, my family really worried about me. So my mom and my family told me, you need to think about come back home or either go to the other state or do not go to NYC. So because of this one, I need to think about I need to change my plan. So it really impact my decision.
Thank you for sharing that. So there was another question about what do you think Congress should do to deal with the rise of anti-Asian discrimination? Dylan?
Well, I think it's kind of very complex the question because, like, if there is anything the Congress or the government could do, I think it's probably stop like considering other countries as probably like opponents because sometimes I watch some news about China, and I could say there's a lot of bad words to they're considering the like some countries, especially China or other countries as their main opponents. So I think, and also sometimes the government they are try to there's a propaganda of the government is sometimes it's also not very friendly to those people because one of the questions I always got asked very frequently is um, do you eat dog? I mean, a lot of people, like especially Western people, they think Chinese they eat dog, and I think that's one of the propaganda of some governments. So I would say if the Congress really want to deal with all those discrimination, not only for Asian but for like every race, I'd say probably I'm not sure because I don't really I can't really come up with any solutions. So yeah.
Well, you're right. It is a complex thing. It is very complex and certainly does require a lot of consideration. So, Miran, what do you think?
So I definitely agree with what Dylan said that on the governmental level, looking at other opponents as countries, and that goes all over the news. Your people will know. Your people will hear about that, like the country's locals and whatnot. And like people in the U.S., they're really patriotic as well. At least a lot of them that I know, and they would definitely follow what the government is saying. And if the government's stating that China is a bit of a threat or potential enemy or opponent, then the people are going to definitely hate the Chinese. They're at least going to be more have a bit of a more conflict kind of attitude towards them instead of a more peaceful or compassionate one.
Thank you. And Sue,
Yeah, I think it's also complex, and as someone student mentioned in the chat box, until we like decide where we from, like different control, different definition. If we use different definition, it'll be still we have a discrimination. So I think maybe complex should figure it out. Yeah.
thank you. Jun,
Uh, uh, I think government or politics shouldn't involve with the race or ethnic religion because it affect because government should be equal, so it shouldn't judge and shouldn't involve the stand up or race of the age anti-Asian discrimination. But people like who in America need to think about anti-Asian, but it's no job for it's not it doesn't matter the Congress or government work, I think. And then even there's some comment in here. They mention if the person describe American or not, is for me it doesn't matter. Okay, we just consider who am I, where we from, because America is like diversity country, and then we just need to understand how can we deal with the other community. It's not like we have to be American or not like that. Like we should respect each other and then raise our community at the same level. I think that's a key to how to live in here.
thank you. And one of the comments I think that Dylan made, if I can go up to that, that one of the things we need to do is to respect diversity in different cultures. And I think it resonated a lot with everybody, certainly on this in this panel and the seminar. So, so let's see. I don't see any more questions from our audience. Do any of you have anything new you want to add?
Actually, there's a new question in the panel.
Yes, I just saw that. What does the school administration have planned to respect diversity, not only for Asians, but everyone? So we're involved in really thinking very deeply about this, and you know, even this forum itself is a step in that direction. You know, certainly we believe very deeply in the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just for our students, but everybody on campus. And it's our job to make sure that, you know, we create a sense of belonging on our campus, and that we provide all the necessary supports for our students and our faculty and our staff. And you know, this is an ongoing iterative process, you know, where we need to look at what we're doing carefully to make sure it's exactly what's needed, and make any changes we need to make to make sure we account for, you know, kind of current events, so that whatever we're providing for our students is relevant and timely. So so I think I certainly believe I'm at a great place, and it sounds like all of you believe that, you know, we at RCC are doing our very best to help you to be successful and to navigate these very difficult issues. I see Dr. Lynch. She's part of the audience. Dr. Lynch, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thanks everybody who made this event possible, and Dr. Bridglall for facilitating, and students, you're amazing. I've learned so much today, and I really appreciate your courage in doing this. And I think from my perspective, one of the working groups on campus, one of the committees that I'm involved with is called Steps Beyond Statements. And it was just formed, you know, recently over the past few months. And the idea is that, you know, we often make a statement that we are, for example, against Asian American violence and discrimination, but we need to take more steps than that. And so one of the things that group is working on has to do with gathering data. There was a diversity survey that was recently disseminated to all the students, and maybe you actually took that survey. And the data from that survey is being analyzed by both staff and students who are doing internships. And they're going to actually come up with some results, and then we'll look at the results and we'll take action as a result of that. So I really appreciate this great question. It is something that's being worked on. We need help. We need everyone working on it. And again, I just really appreciate this event.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lynch. So let's see. And I think, you know, let's see, it's really, we can't thank our student panelists enough. Really, many thanks to them for taking the time to share their perspectives on this very important issue, this very complicated, complex issue. And at RCC, we very much value each student and always welcome opportunities to hear from them. And we thank all of our attendees as well for coming out to support our students and our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. And the new one Dr. Lynch talked about, Steps Beyond Statements. And thank you, Dr. Roy, for spearheading this event. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, everyone. I'll echo the comments from both Dr. Lynch and Dr. Bridglall. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much to our students for participating. Look forward to additional programming that's coming up during the community week at the end of April. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you.